Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today we're going to learn how to create a glitchy grunge graffiti text effect in Photoshop. Now, a couple of assumptions I need to get out of the way right off the bat. Number one, I am using Photoshop CC 2017, so if you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. Second, I am using Windows, so if you're using a Mac, when I say hit the Control key on the keyboard, that means hit the Command key, and when I say hit the Alt key on the keyboard, that means hit the Option key. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started by hitting Control N on the keyboard to bring up the new image dialog box. And let's name this, let's see here, Glitchy Grunge Graffiti Text. Grunge Graffiti text, okay? Text. Let's do text. There we go. That's because that's what we're making. So our width is going to be 3,840 pixels by a height of 2,160 pixels, 150 pixels per inch resolution. Color mode is RGB 8-bit. Background contents doesn't really matter. We're going to be covering that up. Our color profile is going to be Adobe RGB 1998, and we're using square pixels. Let's hit create, and now we will be ready to begin. The first thing that we're going to do here is we are going to bring in an image. Now, I have a link in the description below where you can download this same background image. You can also apply this text effect to any text and put it on any image you want. But I'm going to use the image of a wall because it's supposed to be a graffiti type effect. So let's bring this in, and whenever you have your image in, just make it nice and big so you can see what you're doing. And right here, that looks great. Hit enter and you have your wall image. Then you can get rid of your background. Like I said, you don't need it for this effect. Okay, we've now got our background. We can even name this background like so. All right, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to select our text tool. And our text tool is the T on the keyboard for text, or you can select your text tool right here on your toolbar. Now, the font that I'm using is called Dark Black. Okay, there's a link in the description below where you can download it. It is a free font. Having some tongue trouble today. And I'm going to be using Dark Black, like I said, at 225 point size. Everything else standard. We're going to use all caps, so I just have the all cap button here clicked, and I'm using black, which is all zeros for the color of my text. Okay, once you have all that set, you're going to go right here, and you're going to write in your text. I'm going to write pixel, and then I'm going to do a new line for magic. Okay, and once you put in your text, you're going to want to fix the kerning, and the kerning is the spacing in between letters of text. Okay, and the way that you do that is you take your mouse, you move your text tool to between the letters that you want to move back and forth or make closer or further apart. And then you hold down the Alt key on the keyboard and you use the left and right keys on the keyboard to move things closer together or further apart, like so. You hold down Alt and the left key will move things closer and the right key will move things further apart. Okay? So right now I'm just going to give everything just a little bit of separation between the letters because the glitch effect looks best when there is a little bit of space between the letters because there needs to be a place for the glitch to live. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Yes, that looks good. Once you're done, just hit the check mark and your text is then ready to go. And let's use our move tool. That is V on the keyboard, or the move tool is up here on the toolbar. And just grab your text and get it mostly centered. It doesn't have to be perfect, but there you go, right in the middle. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to set our fill opacity to 0. So here's fill opacity for our text, and we're going to set that down to 0. And then we're going to set our blending mode here to dissolve. Okay. Then what we're going to do is apply an inner glow layer effect to this text layer. So we're going to go down here to our layer effects, and we're going to go to inner glow, and we're going to give this an inner glow. Okay. And the inner glow that we're going to use is going to be a dissolve. Okay, the opacity here is going to be at 100%. Our noise is going to be at 10%. The color that we're using is going to be all black, which is all zeros right there. Hit OK. Technique is going to be softer. And what we're going to do here is we're going to change the source from center to edge. Okay, and as you can see, we can now see our text. Now, what we're going to do then is we're going to make the 0. We're going to make our size 105. Linear, which is the default, which is this guy right here. Anti-alias is unchecked. Range is going to be 40. And jitter is going to be 15. Hit OK, and then we are then ready with the beginnings of our text effect. One thing I do want to note at this time is I am using a fairly thick and heavy font. This effect works best because it's supposed to be graffiti with thick fonts. It doesn't really work well with thin fonts. So use any thick font you might want. The font that I'm using here is a very good font to use for this, the dark black font, but you can use any fairly heavy font with this effect. Okay, with that said, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to close the little effects icon over here, and then we are going to convert this layer into a smart object. And the way that we do that is we right-click on the layer, we go over here to convert to smart object, click on that, and it is then converted to a smart object. Once we have done that, what you want to do, you can see here the smart object layer, the fill is 100%, the opacity is 100%, but it is still a dissolve layer. Now you don't want it to be a dissolve layer anymore, so we're going to click on that and make that normal now. Okay, and you can see that that did change the look of this. Okay, once we have done that, we are then going to apply a few more layer styles to this smart layer. Okay, so let's go down here to our layer effects, and the first thing that we're going to do is just a drop shadow. We're just going to click on a drop shadow. Now, the one that we're going to do, and let me just see something here. Yes, okay. So what we're going to do, first of all, is I'm going to get rid of these bottom two. We don't need them. And we're just going to have 2 drop shadows, okay? We're going to have this one up here. We'll do first, and then you can hit the plus icon next to the first drop shadow, which will create a second drop shadow, and then you can apply the effects that we'll need to that. So the first one right here is going to be a blend mode of color burn. Okay, the color that I am using is a very nice pink color. You can use any color that looks good to your eye. In this effect, I'm going to be using pink, and on the bottom will be blue. But you can use green and yellow or blue and orange or any colors that you want. Okay, but for this, I am using DB1E7B. That is the color that I'm using, hot pink. Opacity is going to be 100%. Okay, and the angle that I'm using here is -45 degrees. Use global light, as always, is unchecked. We never really use that. Distance is going to be 25 pixels. Spread and size are both 0. Contour is going to be linear, which is the default one. Okay, anti-alias is unchecked, and noise here is going to be at 80%. Okay, layer knocks out drop shadow is checked. Then we're going to hit the little plus icon here to create a second layer below the drop shadow that's pink. And the second layer is going to be a blue one. Our blend mode is going to be multiply. The color that I'm using here is blue, which is 0FCDD4. Okay, opacity is still 100%. Angle is now going to be 135 degrees. Use global light again is unchecked. Distance is going to be 25 pixels. Spread and size are 0. Contour is linear. Anti-alias unchecked. Noise is 80. And layer knocks out drop shadow is checked. We're then going to hit OK, and that is all the effects that we need to complete the look. However, we still need to convert this into another smart object. Now, if you recall, we did create a smart object already, okay? But because we added in some more effects, we want to change this into a smart object in and of itself, okay? So we are going to right-click on that. We're going to convert to a smart object, and then we have this cool look right here. And then what we're going to do is change the layer mode to color burn. So here's our layer mode. We're going to change that down here to color burn. And that is going to give us this very cool glitchy grunge graffiti look. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we are going to really mess with this, because the glitch look is supposed to also be slightly cut and jagged, okay, so that it looks like the text itself has glitched and changed, is no longer lining up properly. So what we're going to do is we are going to duplicate this layer right here, Pixel Magic. We're going to hit Control J on the keyboard to duplicate the layer. We're then going to create some guidelines. Now you can put the guidelines wherever you want in your text that it looks good. You can do 20 guidelines, you can do just the 2 that I'm going to use, or any number in between, or even more if you so wish. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab from the top ruler, and if you don't see the ruler here, you got to go down here to view, and you want to go to rulers, make sure it's checked, and then you will see your rulers here. Okay, and you just click on the ruler and drag down, and you will create a guideline. So excuse me there. We are going to then drop it right about here-ish. It doesn't matter where you put it, just put it somewhere that looks good to you. Then go grab another one, and we're going to put it about here-ish. Okay, and we have our 2 guidelines. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use our rectangular marquee. So we're going to go to our M on the keyboard for marquee, or we're going to go over here to the marquee tool right here. And we're going to make sure that our feather is 0, style is going to be normal, and we're using just the standard create new selection for the marquee. Okay, and make sure that you are on rectangular marquee, not elliptical or single row or column. Okay, once you are set there, what we are going to do on this top layer is we are going to select the middle part right here. Okay, once you have selected the middle part, we are going to go down here and create a layer mask, like so. We have now created a layer mask. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to select this layer mask by holding down Control on the keyboard, and you'll see that the pointer changes to a hand with a dotted line square. And then if you click on the layer mask, not the layer, but on the layer mask, it will make a selection of the layer mask, okay, which is the center selection, not what we want. What we want is the outer selection. And then what we are going to do is hit Control-Shift-I to invert our selection, like that. And now you can see that there are dotted lines around the top and the bottom areas. And then we're going to go down to our bottom layer here, and we are going to select it and then hit on Create Layer Mask. And we now have 3 sections, a middle section and top and a bottom section. And then what we're going to do is get rid of our guidelines. Now there's different ways to do that. You can go up here to view, you can go to clear canvas guides, or if you just want to hide them and keep them in case you want to use them again later, you can hit Control-H on the keyboard to hide them. Okay, so now they are hidden. The last thing that we're going to do to complete this effect is we're going to hit V on the keyboard to go back to our Move tool, or you can go to the Move tool up here on the toolbar. And then we're going to grab the center section, so you can go up over here to the top layer, and you can click on, and holding down Shift, just move it slightly to the left or to the right, whichever one looks better to your eye. And you then have Glitchy Grunge graffiti text. One last thing that we can do to complete the effect is we can give it a slight tilt so it looks like it was written on the wall. So what we're going to do is select both layers like so. You hold down, you click on the top layer, hold down Shift, click on the bottom layer of text, and then you will select both layers. And then we're going to hit Control-T on the keyboard, and then we are just going to tilt it slightly like so, hit Enter, and we are now ready with our final product of a glitchy grunge graffiti text effect in Photoshop. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. I do new tutorials every Tuesday. And once again, this is Geekman signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.